Good evening, Zimbabwe. Good evening, Africa. I'm Respect, your host on Farm TV Africa. Today on Young Farmer of the Week, we have a vibrant and young environmentalist all the way from the Bahamas, who is going to take us on beekeeping in the Bahamas and the models that we can replicate in Africa. And without talking too much, I'm going to leave you to hear from him and how why he is into environmental issues, why he is into agriculture, why he is into beekeeping. CJ, you can go ahead, introduce yourself, then start your presentation.
Bueno, good evening. Good evening, Zimbabwe. Good evening, Africa. My name is Carlton Taylor II, and like Respect said, I'm from the Bahamas. And I've always had an interest in the environment. I always enjoyed being outside. And so I think my appreciation for the beauty of the environment really sparked my interest in trying to save and conserve the environment. My interest in beekeeping, um, not really sure where it comes from. I really was inspired by a lady who lives in my island. Her name is Miss Catherine Booker, and she has always been very interested in. It's just her interest in the environment, and it was her who spoke to me and who got me interested in beekeeping and agriculture. It was her, and a little bit of my grandfather. My grandfather, he's in the agriculture, and so I would say that is where my interest in agriculture and beekeeping comes from. And so, thank you so much for having me here. Today, I hope to talk to you a little, share with you all a little bit about the Exuma Beekeeping Initiative and a little bit about our journey with the beekeeping industry and with the practices of beekeeping. So, Exuma, my island of Exuma is a small island located in the Bahamas. And before the year 2015, there were no honeybees present in the island. So none of the Apis mellifera were present in the island. And so it was the joint efforts of Mr. Ted Denard, the founder of the Savannah Bee Company of the United States, as well as Miss Catherine Booker, founder of the Grow Exuma Project. And in 2014, they had the very first Exuma Beekeeping Initiative workshop. And the purpose of it was to create local interest in the area of beekeeping. And so, which it did. There was a lot of interest from the locals, a positive response from the locals, including myself, who I also attended that workshop. And so in the year 2015, we got the very first honeybees to the island. They were of the Italian breed of honeybee, Apis mellifera ligustica, and the queen bees were sourced from Hawaii, so an area with a similar climate, which allowed them to adapt more easily to the conditions that we have in Exuma. And so, like I said, it we never had honeybees in the island before, which means they were a new species to the island, and also the practices of beekeeping were relatively new in my island. And so, as new beekeepers, we were revising a lot of literature, and there's quite a lot of excellent literature about beekeeping. We were revising all the literature to help guide us in our journey. And like I said, the literature is excellent, and wherever you're practicing beekeeping, the basic principles of beekeeping will stay the same. However, a lot of the literature out there is more based on North American climates, and so in areas where it's a bit colder. And so there would be things, of course, there would be concepts that wouldn't really apply to us, and there were also things that we would need to pay attention to that wouldn't really apply to the places where the literature was based on. For example, it would say something like one of the greatest dangers to the hive is snow. All beekeepers should protect their hives from snow. Obviously, this doesn't apply in the Bahamas because it doesn't snow. Or like it would say, Make sure the hives have as much exposure to the sun as possible, full exposure if necessary. Well, in the Bahamas, full exposure to the sun is quite a lot of sun. And so we basically went forward in our journey of beekeeping with very little to guide us in terms of what challenges we would have to face. However, that is where our innovation and our learning from the environment and the conditions that we have came in. And so in Exuma, we have four main challenges to beekeeping. One would be the heat, one would be the need for water, the third would be hurricanes, and the fourth would be equipment. So, like I said before, the heat, the first one is the heat. The heat not only affects the bees directly, but also the beekeeper. Um, a lot of the beekeeping protection suits cover the whole body to minimize the aggression response of the bee and to protect the beekeeper. However, to use such equipment in Exuma, from personal experience, just saying it's really uncomfortable. And so it puts a lot of stress on the beekeeper. And if you are familiar with beekeeping, you would know that a stressed beekeeper would lead to stressed bees, and stressed bees will have a higher aggression response to the beekeeper. And so it would be counterproductive and also a risk to safety to use the protection. I know it sounds a bit strange, but to use a protection will actually induce the bees to sting more. And so as you can see here, we basically um, typically we just use the veil, the bee veil, to protect the vital area of the face. But as you can see, everything else is short sleeve shirt, short pants, and this just makes it a lot more comfortable. And as you can see, the bees being Italian, the Italian breed of honeybees, they are a lot more gentle than other types of honeybees. And so this also helps a lot. Also, like I mentioned a bit before about the exposure to the sun, we in this area we don't have. This is one of the oldest apiaries on the island, and here we do not expose the bees to full sun because just because of the reason I said before, full exposure to the sun in Exuma is quite a lot of sun, and so regrettably I don't have a picture that shows this very well, but you can kind of see it in the back. It's we have an enclosure around, and in this we have wires, and we loosely wove palm fronds in between these wires, and that just helps to shade the hives a little bit while it does allow some sun to enter. It shades the hives a little bit, and also we have planted passion fruit around, which also does the same thing, as well as providing a pollen source very close to the hives. However, just like the palm fronds, which were a resource that was abundant around us and that we used for our benefit, the heat is also very beneficial and is a resource that we can take advantage of. Here we see a very early prototype of a solar wax welter, a solar wax melter that we were experimenting with. And this basically is just a device that would use the heat of the sun to melt the unprocessed wax and render it into these blocks, which can then be used for whatever the various uses of beeswax in beekeeping. The heat also brings us to our next challenge, which would be the water. Bees naturally need water. They use it to regulate the temperature in the hive, so it's not only important on an individual level, but a level of the hive as well. And so it is very important in a climate like the one in Exuma that you have water available to your bees. And so we experimented with many different ways of providing water to the bees. The simplest way would be just a very shallow pond. Yeah, so like you saw in the video, that was just a shallow pond of water in which you place some stones to prevent the bees from drowning, so that bees have an area to stand, and this allows them to drink the water. Another excellent way that we found was to have a gravity rainwater fed gravity tank. And what this would do is you would have a faucet at the bottom of the tank, and this would slowly drip into a shallow pond with the same setup. And this movement of the water and also the shallowness of the pond would discourage the laying of mosquito eggs, which is a serious problem in the tropics. Another serious problem in the tropics are the hurricanes, and this is one we've had to deal with quite a bit in the last 5 years of the existence of the initiative, the Exuma Beekeeping Initiative. And the way we prepare for this is we use these orange hurricane straps. We just use these to anchor down the beehives to the support base or whatever base it's on, and this just minimizes the possibility that it will fall over. Another simple way is to place heavy stones or bricks on the top of the hives just to give a little extra weight to the hives. As you can see here, yeah, so as you saw in that video, that was a all-day period that was being prepared for an incoming hurricane that was approaching to the island. And another one of the challenges that we face is the challenge of equipment. Exuma has a very unique situation in as it is one of the only places in the world where, well, in all the time that we've had the bees on the island, we had no recorded cases of any hive diseases, any bee diseases, and more importantly, no recorded cases of the varroa mite, which is a serious problem on the global beekeeping scale, as it is a parasite to the bees and the hive that causes exponential damage to the bees and to the productivity of the hive, as well as just the overall health, and it can really devastate a hive. We do not have that, and neither do we want to. And so the income of equipment, which is a staple, which is regularly needed, has to be regulated so that we do not inadvertently bring in any infected material to the island. So all the equipment, beekeeping equipment that enters the island has to pass through the initiative. It comes through the initiative. It's sourced from the initiative, which we have a reliable source from where we get these equipment. And this just minimizes the possibility that we will infect any of our natural, well, our native bee stock, as you might say. Other Sorry about that. So as you saw there, other equipment is needed for the processing of honey. And so that there was a honey extractor, and that is used by the beekeepers on the island to extract the honey after every harvest so that they can bottle it and then sell it or use it for their own personal consumption and what have you. Which leads me to the next sort of topic I want to cover, the diversification of products. Commonly, when you think of honeybees, of course, you're going to think honey. And this reflected very early on in the whole learning process that we had. We were basically producing a lot of honey, and honey was basically the only product of the hive that we were producing. And early on, there was only one producer of honey, but now we have various producers of honey that on the island, and they're doing very well. However, the second most used product of the hive in Exuma would be the beeswax, which is the wax sourced from the honeycomb of the bee. And a perfect example of this would be this young lady here. So this young lady, what she does is she uses the beeswax and she cuts it very thin and she incorporates it into this thin cloth. And why she does that is what she's doing is she's creating, after she incorporates the wax into the cloth, it has the properties of your regular saran wrap or your regular plastic wrap. And so then she's able to use this, and she uses this actually quite interestingly for the packaging of her own bee butter, which is a skin moisturizer that she makes using the beeswax and essential oils and natural plant source butters like shea butter and mango butter, which she then sells. Beekeeping also provides an opportunity for services to be offered. Wherever there's beekeeping, there's going to be swarms. There are going to be swarms. Swarms are essentially being the natural propagation of hives, the way hives naturally increase on a colony level. And so oftentimes these swarms would end up on the property or sometimes even in the houses of persons who would not want them there. And so then the beekeepers are called upon to remove them. And then the beekeepers not only gain the hive, but they gain a little money for removing the hive, as well as sometimes a bit of honey, depending on how much time the swarm had been there. Another service that we have provided using our hives would be education. There are a lot of people interested in learning about beekeeping, as should be. We offer tours to adults and to children. And because the bees are such a gentle breed of bees, it allows for them to get really up close and personal with the bees and thus really appreciate the learning that they are receiving, and really learn that much more and obtain that much more knowledge. For an even more closer, even more in-depth look at the inner workings of the hive, we also have observation hives. Um, as you can see, that's this glass box close to the window. And what this does, it allows persons to look directly into the hive and see the bees' daily processes, the birth of bees, the making of honey. It really gives you an in-depth look of the hive without having to be a beekeeper, without having to wear a veil. And a lot of people really enjoy looking at the observation hives. And as well, we have beekeeping workshops for people who are interested in becoming beekeepers, or so only for people who just want to learn that much more about beekeeping, who really want to have that in-depth, hands-on experience. And what's quite interesting is some of the people who attended the very first beekeeping workshop are now some of the people who are giving these workshops to the other people. So it's really interesting to think about. And I've saved sort of this one for kind of the last because as of yet we don't really do it. However, I personally believe it is a very viable option and industry opportunity for us, and that is queen rearing. Queen bees are very important to the lives of the hive and to the production of honey, and this importance is reflected in the price. So the price of a queen bee can range anywhere from 30 up to $100, and some of the top quality bees can even be as much as $300. And as Exuma is such a isolated area with a very controlled genetic pool, you might say, it really makes this option that much more viable, as you can control the genetics of the bees to ensure that they have a good quality, which is what, when somebody is buying a queen, that is what they want. They want a queen of good quality. They do not want anything of an inferior quality, because this has a direct effect on their production and on their hives. We were fortunate to have a seminar of queen rearing with Miss Jennifer Berry, an expert in the field. And here she is teaching us a little bit about the process of grafting, which is the technical process of selecting the larva that you hope that the hive transforms into a queen bee, and placing it in the specially designed cups, and that is me practicing graphing. And really, it's an area that interests me a lot, and I feel that I would like to do some work with it in the future. And so, coming to a conclusion, we in the Exuma Beekeeping Initiative hope to continue forward in the sustainable development of the industry. We hope to continue to find more innovations to increase the scale of production while protecting the environment and while protecting the purity of our bees and the situation that we have there. And thank you all so much for listening to me. If you would like to learn anything more about the Exuma Beekeeping Initiative or the Grow Exuma program or anything that I've said today, feel free to just Google any of those things, the Grow Exuma program or the Exuma Beekeeping Initiative. And once again, thank you all so much for listening to me, and may you all have a good evening.
Well, thank you so much, my brother, for such a wonderful presentation. Hey, I'm so honored to have known you and to interact with you on a daily basis, and I'm inspired by what you are doing in your community and for other young people in the Bahamas. And in Africa, when we think about the Caribbean, we think about Bahamas, we think about dancehall music, we think about reggaeton, despacito, and all those things. And I think this an eye opener to a lot of young people across Africa and in the world to see that we also have agriculture, also have innovative people, we also have great work being done in such regions. And I have some couple of questions for you, and also to our viewers. You can feel free to write your comments and also ask our brother here some questions if you need any clarification. And my brother, where do you see yourself in 10 years as far as beekeeping and environmental issues are concerned?
What a good question. What a good question. I definitely, well, as you know, I am a student at the university, Earth University in Costa Rica, and one of the central themes that we have here is agents of change or agentes de cambio. And so I definitely see myself trying to be exactly that, an agent of change. And so I would definitely like to go back to my country after I finished my studies here and to, of course, build the beekeeping industry, but not only the beekeeping industry, the agricultural sector as a whole. I feel that in my country, it's not sufficiently developed, and that puts us in a very precarious position, if you know what I mean. So I would like to go back and develop this sector, and as well as in the Bahamas, as you said, there's a lot of marine environment, and so basically my goal is to find ways that we can do both. We can develop the agricultural sector while working in unison and protecting the marine environments that we have and the marine resources.
Okay, that's wonderful. And what can you say to a youth like you in Africa, in Zimbabwe, about agriculture and the opportunities that you see in agriculture, and also giving them from your point of view from the Caribbean and also your experience in Costa Rica?
Well, the agricultural industry is one that is crucial to the survival of every human on the planet. And as the times change, also the methods needs to change. And so one thing I will say is innovation, which was a central theme of my presentation today. That is what we need. We need to start moving away from more traditional agriculture and start finding ways that we can produce more food, but at the same time produce it in a manner that's sustainable, because that is in the area that needs the most development in agriculture today. And so I would say to the youths to work on just that, to to look for ways to to look for solutions to problems that we are facing in the agricultural sector today.
Okay. And also, you are just a few minutes, a few hours flight to Miami to Florida, and why deciding to venture into agriculture? Why didn't you just cross the ocean into the US and uh, experience that fancy life? Was like for many young people in Africa, like in my country, in my village, me included, when I was young, I used to think that uh, in this side of the world we have all these big buildings, this fancy lifestyle, music, and everything, and that's the best thing that we can do in life. And we we looked down upon agriculture, and we thought agriculture is for the less educated, agriculture is for the less intelligent. And you are not taking up all those opportunities to go to Miami, maybe to cross to Florida, and you are deciding to get more knowledge into agriculture. What can you say to young people in Africa around such views and opinions?
Well, to be honest, I shared that same mindset for quite a while. I think that that sort of mindset is quite prevalent in my country, which was one of the factors that pushed me to come here actually and to venture in the agricultural sector because, like I said before, everybody needs to eat, and a country with very low food security, with a food security that's not very good, is a country in danger. And so I don't. I mean, it's like the way we have everybody. We should. I feel that everybody should work towards building themselves and contributing to their community. And the way I saw the opening, the window I saw for helping my community, the need that I saw in my community was a need to increase food security, to make our food security more secure. And so that was why I decided to venture in the sector agricola, or the agricultural sector, as they say.
Okay. Thank you so much, my brother, for such a wonderful presentation and to have you here. I trust a lot of young people across Africa and Zimbabwe and the world at large, they've been inspired by your great work, and we are going to continue to engage you on Farm TV Africa, also to come and give us more information, more knowledge, more skills towards enhancing productivity for farmers in Africa, and also ensuring food security across Africa. Thank you so much, my brother, and
Thank you so much for having me.
be safe. And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in, and please continue to um, be live on our programs. We're going to continue. We are going to continue giving you various topics on agriculture, and also featuring young people who are doing great. And we are so glad by the level of interest among young people. So that starting from next week, we are going to be featuring 3 young people who are doing great in agriculture. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for your support. Until next time.